welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. It's Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Original Sprout. Original Sprout carries safe, effective, and pediatrician tested shampoos, conditioners, styling, and body care products produced and packaged in the USA. And today's episode is also brought to you by Sheila Darling Coaching. Sheila Darling is a social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and a mindfulness meditation teacher, and could be your start to a more peaceful life. We'll hear more from our sponsors later, but you can head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check out our sponsor page if you need anything. Check there and see if you can give our sponsors any of your business, because they make this podcast possible. And while you're there, you can scroll down and enter your email address, and we'll send this episode right to your inbox every Monday. Well, not this one. We'll send every new one to your inbox on Monday, not just this episode. And now Dianne has our review of the week.
Yes, I have our review of the week. It came to us via email from Karen. I find your posts and podcast interesting and encouraging. Being 74 years old, I don't listen regularly, but appreciate that you are there and so helpful for moms. It also makes me very sad that we still need to put your information and debunking of stupid myths. I first breastfed in 1969. I was successful because I was stubbornly rebelling against my Puritan mom. I asked my all-male for gynos if there were classes I could go to for birthing. Oh, you just let us do our job. I was petrified to give birth. Childbirth classes were just beginning to be available at the time. I was reluctant to go to La Leche League meetings, not sure what they did there. I asked if I could feed immediately after the baby came out. Oh, no, you would drop it because of the medication. Well, I don't want any medication. Well, you won't have any milk anyway. I want the baby to get the colostrum, which is very valuable. I don't believe that has been proven. I switched doctors. In the hospital, they gave me bottles of sugar water the first 3 days.
Ugh.
We stayed in the hospital 5 days back then. When it was time to go home, they gave this cute little 6-pack of formula with discount coupons. Oh, how nice of you. Thank you. When the hospital bill came a month later, I was billed for the free samples. Next delivery, I demanded that I not be given the free sample. La Leche League was a lifesaver for me with my first and my second baby who was colicky. And I love that when I responded to her, I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this. Can I use it for our review of the week? And she said that she'd be proud to have her experience shared, especially if it could be put into context for what new mothers are experiencing. And I said, it's still a battle. It is still a battle.
It is, but formula companies have come a long way now with their marketing and their targeting of parents early on. Mm-hmm. You don't get billed for that anymore, and you get garbage bags and garbage bags filled with it for free.
They just get sent to your house.
Yeah.
They just send it to your house.
They do. Yeah, they're much more aggressive now. And whatever. Okay, it's not about that.
Fascinating.
We'll go on to the next hour.
I know, right? It is fascinating to me, though, like her experience, though, with the doctors and everything. And I told her, that was the generation where they just said, oh, you don't have any milk. And I said, oh, okay. And nobody really breastfed. But she was very determined. And I love that.
Well, yeah. And I think that's also the generation that really started pushing back.
Yeah.
And where we get to kind of continue on their, legacy and their fight to continue to push against this, because it won't be a generation or two that, finally knocks it down. There's a lot of things that need to happen for things like this to change.
And I was born in 1971, and I'm the youngest of 4 girls, and I was the only one who my father was allowed into the birthing room. Mm-hmm. They were just starting to do that in the 70s.
They weren't even, sometimes the parent wasn't even awake.
No.
Right? Yeah.
No, not at all.
That's what my mother-in-law was like. I don't even remember. I don't even think I was awake. She barely even, she doesn't remember. She's like,
no,
I
it was twilight
birth.
Yeah, twilight birth. They put you out and then did an episiotomy and then pulled the baby out with forceps. That was the common thing.
Yeah.
That's how my sister was born. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your
Thank you.
fight.
Yes. And I love that we have
review.
somebody who is of an older generation listening to the podcast. I think that's amazing.
That's really cool.
And I would love to hear everybody's stories. I think it's great. So send us your reviews, put them on iTunes, send us an email, and we would love to share them. So thank you very much. And I think this topic would have blown their minds back in 1969.
Even though we've been doing this for God knows how long, but
right?
Yeah. That's when all this misinformation started again, where we have all this terrible, terrible information about breastfeeding while pregnant and tandem nursing. This is a topic that is just completely riddled with terrible, terrible information. It's really difficult to get anything that's accurate about it. And so we can just start from the beginning.
Yeah. And I know we did this topic, way
a million
early.
Years ago. It was like our third episode.
So I'm glad we've had several people request it again. So it'll be fun to kind of revisit it again and, put that information back out there into the world because it needs to be.
Yeah. When I first started the blog 9 years ago, I saw a couple of tandem nursing pictures, which actually led me to want to tandem nurse myself, which I did. And now it's very common to see tandem nursing photos. So I don't think people are just sharing photos more. Maybe that's true, but I think also more people are tandem nursing as they get the correct information.
I think so too.
So that is really cool because just my story, which you probably already know, but I was pregnant I had Jack, and Jack was like probably just turned 2 when I became pregnant with Exley. And I knew that I wanted to tandem nurse because I saw a very specific photo of a woman who's in the badass community. I don't remember her name. I could search for it. But she was tandem nursing in a birthing tub in her house. She had a home birth, and she had had her baby, was nursing, and then her toddler had hopped in and was nursing too. And I was like, stop the presses. This is what I want.
Bring my birthing tub right now.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
I did. I ordered my birthing tub and my home birth midwives, and I said, Jack, you're free to proceed. And he continued to nurse. So we'll get into all the things that go along with, nursing through pregnancy and all that. But then, so he nursed through my pregnancy, and then I tandem nursed both of them for 3.5 years, which is a long time.
It is, yeah.
And it was really cool. It's very empowering, when you learn all the things that your body can do. But so... and I had the home birth, which we could do an episode on home births too.
Yeah. That's true.
So from the beginning, so you can get pregnant when you're breastfeeding. Like the earlier you are breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding, it'll be more difficult, but beware that you can become pregnant, even when you're not ready, even when you haven't had a period, you can have started to ovulate and you can get pregnant. And if you get pregnant and the child that you have already is under a year, you will have to make a plan for, donor milk or formula or something like that, because your milk supply will drop. Mm-hmm. And that's totally normal. And people ask me all the time, oh my God, how can I keep my milk supply up during my pregnancy? And there's really not anything that you can do.
It's hormonal.
Yeah, your body is preparing for the new baby. So your toddler is, free to continue breastfeeding, but we're talking about a younger baby. Your baby can continue to breastfeed, but there will be a lack of, there won't be as much. I have heard people say like, no, I had a full milk supply through pregnancy. I don't know about that. That is not what you should not expect that. You should, what the norm is that your milk supply will drop around second trimester, mm-hmm. and you will have to make a plan because your baby up until a year needs breast milk or formula to get all of the proper nutrients. If you have a toddler, then just go. It's fine. It's fine to proceed. Breastfeeding, we can tackle some of these myths Because this is where it all starts. Okay, because the breastfeeding while pregnant. Okay, so this is where it is mostly so much bad information. So a lot of people say, your doctor will say, well, say your doctor will say this, but your doctor could say, my Tandem nursing, smallest one, just walked in and is looking up and down at the closet. Now he's leaving. All right. People will likely say to you that your nursing toddler is taking the nutrients away from the fetus. This is not true. There's not just nutrients flying around that can either go to the fetus or be sucked out your boob. This is not how it works. Your body is like, oh, there's a baby in here. We need to do all hands on deck. We're taking care of this baby. That doesn't happen.
You think your OB would know that?
Yeah,
how babies formed.
A lot of them seem to not be. I think this is also something that, has been, because medical curriculum is like, first of all, flawed and also old.
Old.
So there's a lot of really old information in there that just hasn't been updated.
Right.
So you're going to say, well, no, your fetus won't get enough, nutrients. That's ridiculous. That's not true at all. There is absolutely no evidence, nothing of that. So put that right out of your head. Then they might say, well, breastfeeding while pregnant causes preterm labor. This is also not true. So breastfeeding can cause very tiny uterine contractions, which is what they are saying causes preterm labor. That is not true. I tend to say, like, if you have a normal, healthy pregnancy, proceed without any questions or anything. You're totally fine to go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
My midwives were like, whatever. Why are you asking? Just do it. Do you? But even in a high risk pregnancy, I'm going to read something that from Kelly Mom, and it's actually, I'm actually quoting Kelly Mom, and Kelly Mom is quoting the book Adventures in Tandem Nursing, which is a fantastic book. It's by Hilary Flowers. If you plan to tandem nurse or you are tandem nursing, it's such a wonderful resource to have. And I believe there was an updated version just recently. She reached out to me, and there was like some preparation. It either came out or it's coming out. So this says, interestingly, experts on miscarriage and preterm labor are not among those that see a potential link between breastfeeding and these pregnancy complications. Miscarriage expert Leslie Regan, PhD, MD, quoted in Adventures in Tandem Nursing, saw no reason that breastfeeding should impact pregnancy, even if the mother has a history of miscarriage or is experiencing a threatened miscarriage. So people that actually study miscarriage and preterm labor and experts in this field are like, we don't think that's what's going on. And this is important too for people who may have had a miscarriage and are breastfeeding, because I had a woman just recently message me and say that her doctor, she had a miscarriage, and her doctor said, oh, well, next time you try to get pregnant, you should wean.
Ugh.
And oh my God. So now she was like, she reached out to me and was like, this is what he said. Did I cause this miscarriage? And I'm like, abso-freaking-lutely not.
I had somebody email me about that recently. Well, it was several months back, but she was really tormented, and her doctor didn't say anything about it, but she was like, did I do this? Did I cause this? It's like, no,
this is not what is happening. Miscarriages happen, and it's terrible, and it's so painful. And I'm sorry to everyone for your loss if that has happened to you, but it is not because of breastfeeding. Okay. Okay.
All right. We got that cleared up.
What else?
And I always tell people, while you're looking for your next thing, I always tell them too, if you can have sex during pregnancy, then you can have you can tandem nurse.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So because orgasms cause the same uterine contractions, right? So if your doctor is like, oh, yeah, you're totally free to have sex, there's no, you have no limits or anything on your pregnancy, then, why, then there shouldn't be any limits on the breastfeeding either.
Correct.
And again, the experts in the preterm labor will say that these are not related, even if you're having a complicated pregnancy, even if you're having a high-risk pregnancy. But if you are having a high-risk pregnancy, I completely understand, wanting to further talk to somebody or further talk to a lactation consultant or somebody like that.
Right.
About your specific situation. So you're pregnant. So we got that straightened up. So now you're like, okay, cool. I feel fine to continue. So then you hit your your second trimester and your milk supply drops. So you also probably will likely be experiencing extremely sensitive nipples with, all that breast pain that comes with pregnancy. And then you have a toddler nursing on them. Yeah, that's really uncomfortable. That does subside, I will say. If you can stick through that, this is also a great time. Oh, there's so many things to talk about. This is a great time to implement some boundaries. And we have a whole episode on boundaries that we can put in that is in the show notes. So listen to that one. This is implementing those and practicing those boundaries while you are pregnant will really help you when the baby is here, because you're really going to need them then. And we can talk more about that after our ad break.
Yes, because that's important stuff.
Yes. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Original Sprout. Original Sprout carries safe, effective, and pediatrician-tested shampoos, styling, and body care products produced and packaged in California, USA. Are you sporting a wild hairstyle in quarantine? The classic hair gel is made with apple and apricot extract while hydrating hair with cucumber, securing even the most elaborate hairstyles. I use it to tame my frizz and flyaways. And the classic styling balm is made with shea and cocoa butter that provides a long-lasting hold and ideal for styling curls. All of Original Sprouts products are paraben and phthalate-free, vegan, and cruelty-free. Their proprietary formulas contain nourishing extracts from fruits, vegetables, and flowers that the whole family can enjoy. Made for babies, perfect for grown-ups too. Check out the entire line at originalsprout.com and use code BADASS for 25% off your order. Today's episode is also brought to you by Sheila Darling Coaching. A new baby can add intense amounts of anxiety and depression. No sleep, feeling overwhelmed, looking at your sweet baby and possibly your tandem nursing toddler too, and wondering how these tiny humans can cause so much chaos. The transition to parenthood is an entire identity shift you weren't prepared for. If one more person tells you that this time goes by so quickly, you might just punch them in the face. Transitioning to a new family member takes patience, self-compassion, and support. Sheila Darling Coaching can be that professional support person that Dianne and I are always saying there is no shame in getting. Sheila Darling is a social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and mindfulness meditation teacher, and could be your start to a more peaceful life. Head to SheilaDarling.com to schedule your consultation today. And mention this podcast when you're scheduling and receive 10% off of your coaching package. All of these sponsors and their promo codes can be found in our show notes under this episode on badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. Our show notes will also include further information about things we talked about in this episode, and at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, you will also find our breastfeeding resources, all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your very own one-on-one online lactation consultation with Dianne.
Yes.
And today's shout out goes to Milk Pimp. Milk Pimp is a account on Instagram. It is a little shop that sells cute little baby things, and has really awesome information about pumping, mostly pumping and breastfeeding and chest feeding. And they have these nice little mommy to mommy after dark talks where you can ask questions and they go over different topics, and it's a wonderful resource. So check out Milk Pimp on Instagram. And let's get back to tandem nursing. So those sensitive nipples are really difficult. You're going to get into your second trimester, and this is when your milk supply will likely, if it hasn't already started to drop, it will around now, which your toddler. So for me, I wanted to tandem nurse. So during this time, Jack started to nurse less. And so I started having lots of anxiety about that. But he's still comfort nursed through that. Some people say that their toddler just totally weans during this time because of the changes, and they're just kind of move on. If you want to continue nursing, continue to offer during those relaxing times and, in your favorite nursing chair. If you don't want to continue nursing, continue to play up the the times that they're not nursing and these boundaries, when you're implementing these boundaries, which we go into a lot of detail in that episode, but the kind of shortening the duration of breastfeeding times and lessening the sessions throughout the day. You can continue to kind of push that all the way till weaning if that's what your goal is. Otherwise, continue offering have that special little nursing chair where they can continue to comfort nurse through that time. My experience is that as time went on and the closer I got to birth, the more that he started nursing, maybe just anticipating changes or colostrum. There started to be colostrum, which he liked. After the baby was born, he picked right up again, nursed, would probably have nursed more than the newborn if I let him. That was really difficult. That time, that transition is going to be difficult. A lot of people worry about jealousy in breastfeeding. I can say that wasn't really. There's definitely jealousy, of a new sibling, and it's very chaotic. Jack had a really hard time. It's very hard adjusting to a new family member for a little one who doesn't, understand what's happening. But I found that nursing them was actually helpful, where they could kind of spend some downtime together, both latched on, seeing each other do the thing that they understood.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that really helped. Makes for some wicked pictures too. If that's your thing. Let's see. So, during pregnancy is that time was when nursing aversion set in for me and sets in for a lot of people because your hormones are changing so much. And we also have an episode on nursing aversion. We'll have another episode next month. This is the kind of irrational feeling of anger and anxiety and creepy crawly skin issue of the toddler being latched on and the overwhelming desire to push them off of your breast. It's not fun. My nursing aversion continued throughout my entire nursing journey after that. A lot of times it will go away after you have the baby. Sometimes it'll go away, after a little while. It just all depends on your experience. But we'll leave that resource for you too, the episode. So now you have your baby. Congratulations on your new baby and your new tandem nursing situation. So, more myths around this are like, I don't know if this is really a myth, but it's definitely a big question that people have, which is how I share a bed with my toddler. What am I going to do when the new baby gets here?
Yeah.
That's like a whole, then you're just like, oh my God, all this, the nighttime routine that we had, the everything's going to change. You realize that, right? Like when you have a new baby, all the changes that happen with the first one, all that change is going to happen again. And it's going to be kind of like somebody just, all of the snow fell in your little snow globe of your home, and somebody just picked it up again and shook it. So where everything was laying peacefully and in its place, it's completely uprooted now. This is totally normal. The snow will settle again, and you will have a peaceful little snow globe. I remember it when probably like 5 months postpartum, I remember like just sitting there one day and like looking back at the time when Exley was born and how chaotic it was. And I was like, yeah, okay, so that's in the past now. Because it was rough. It was really, really rough. Jack had a really hard time. Jack's a sensitive little guy, and he had a really hard time. And at the same time, I was having nursing aversion, and I was trying to implement these new boundaries. And he was just like, what? He hit the ceiling. I mean, he was just really unsettled all the time. And it was rough, but that's how it goes. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. You didn't. I thought like I broke him. Like, for a while, I was just like, oh my God, this was a big mistake.
Yeah.
We broke this. We broke him. But it was just a transition, and we got through it, and it was rough. I mean, he started like at night when I was nursing the baby, he would like hit me in my, he would like hit me because he was so upset, and, just, it was really, really hard. Go ahead.
But could you imagine if you weren't breastfeeding him at all, if you had weaned him, how difficult that transition would be?
Right.
He still had that comfort with you, which was really important. And I think that can really help to transition. Everything is changing. You bring a new baby into the world. Everything is changing for your toddler, but the one constant is that they still have that comfort with you. And I think that's a really important piece.
I totally agree. I think that was that was the best thing that we could have done in that situation, is continue to nurse him. Totally. And at night, so the way that I did it is Jack was still in our bed. So the way that I did it to make it safe, because you don't want to put a toddler next to a newborn in a bed.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's dangerous enough just putting yourself next to a toddler in a bed when you're sleeping.
True.
So what I did was I put myself in between Jack and Exley. And Exley and I were right on the edge. We had our mattress on the floor. Exley and I were on the bed on the edge, and laying in that sideline nighttime nursing position, and Jack was at my back sleeping. And when he would wake up and want to nurse, I would sit up with a fortress of pillows. This is what I always tell people: you want a fortress of pillows kind of under your arms and at your back, and you can kind of sit up in a reclined position and tandem nurse. And I would tandem, I would nurse them. Or if I could put Exley down, I would just nurse Jack. And then, when Jack went back to sleep, then I could lay down and go back to sleep, in the position of the sideline nursing between Jack and Exley. So that's how we managed to keep that going and safe. That was also another thing that was fantastic to do, because that would have been a double whammy, of like, oh, now you're just in your own bed over here by yourself, not nursing.
Ugh,
I mean, and if you do that, and that's something you have to do, because nursing through nursing aversion, if that's what you're going through, is not for everyone. But then maybe you can have like your, kind of partner doing double duty with the toddler at night, or, having some way of, because you want to replace that time you have at night with them and make them still feel like, not too much has changed. You want to minimize the change for the toddler, even though it's really difficult, because everything is changing.
Yeah.
So that's always a chaotic time, and people always message me like, this is very chaotic. And it's like, you just got to try different things until you get like your kind of sleep routine down again and your daily routine down. I was really lucky because my husband got 6 weeks of paternity leave. So he was kind of just there the entire time, all day and night, kind of just, acting like as a doula, there to kind of just help. And it helped to like get Jack out of the house, to the park and stuff like that, and I could, just sleep and have, the time I needed with Exley. In some ways it helped. And then after 6 weeks, he went back to work. 6 weeks is a long time. So we kind of had a routine, and then he went back to work after 6 weeks, and it was like all jumbled again. But we made it. And so tandem nursing too, people are like, how do you hold these two kids? And, nursing this new baby while you're also nursing a toddler is very confusing, because you are so used to nursing a toddler, and nursing a newborn is so different. So don't expect to remember, contact a lactation consultant, reach out to somebody so that you can, get the support that you need. Because I also had trouble in this area. I was just like, okay, here's my boobs, 2 kids, free for all, let's go. And that did not work out. Actually was not gaining weight. It was problematic. And so I contacted a lactation consultant who was like, make sure he's getting the full breast. Because, that one has all the milk in it. And I wasn't paying attention to that. So, you can pay attention to, making sure that you're putting the baby on the fuller breast and then having the toddler empty the other one and then switch as you go. And the positions, I would have Jack kind of on my lap, and then I would have Exley like on Jack's lap, if you can picture that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another thing is what contributed a lot to nursing aversion to me was having them both latched on at the same time. And you do not have to do that. You don't have to have them both latched on at the same time. You can have them take turns.
Yeah.
If that is something that's bothering you.
And that could be part of your boundaries. And I've seen families do that where they say, nope, we have to wait until after the baby eats and then you get to eat, then it's your turn. So you can add that in as boundaries too, if you want to do that.
Totally. Yeah. A lot of things so now you have two kids kind of nurse, people will say like, well, if one gets sick, the other one should, stop nursing, or I don't know what people say. Don't do that. Just continue. As we always say, if you are sick, continue nursing. Proceed as usual. What you want them to get is as much breast milk as possible. The colostrum, all that stuff, people worry if it's safe for their toddler. It's totally safe. They love it. It's actually extra thick and sweet, and they tend to enjoy that.
One thing that does happen with the colostrum, though, colostrum works as a laxative to help newborns get that.
Yeah.
All that, meconium out of their system, that first poop out of their system. So you might notice that your toddler is pooping a little bit more. That's okay.
Pooping is good.
Pooping is fine. Yeah. Pooping's healthy.
Yeah. Your breast milk is extra because it's all geared towards your newborn now, right? So it's got all of the extra stuff in it. And I think Jack gained a little bit of weight, a little extra weight, nursing from that newborn milk. For a while. Cool. I think he got a little chunky. I think, maybe it's just my mind, but that's what I think happened.
I could see that happening.
Yeah. Let's see. What else is there real quick? So like I said, it's always safe. Adventures in Tandem Nursing is a super cool resource. What have I not covered? I don't know. I feel like I covered everything.
I think one of the biggest questions I get is, how does your body know to change back for the new baby? Or is your body going to change back and make milk for the new baby? And how does that work? You're pregnant, so your body is always going to be looking after that baby that it's growing. But trust that your body knows what it's doing. We don't have to understand it, but it knows what it's doing.
Yeah. And there will be also, there's also enough. This is another thing. People say that, I think I touched on this before. People are concerned that the toddler will take all of the colostrum. Like colostrum is, that milk right in the beginning, they don't need very much of it. Your body makes, not a lot of it. But think about people that have like Dianne had twins, people have triplets. There's not just like a limited amount. There's not like a certain amount in there, and then when you drink it all, it's gone.
Right.
Like your body just makes it for whoever is there taking it. It makes more.
Yeah.
And this is what happens with toddlers too. And actually nursing a toddler is a great way to kind of, keep that milk supply up because, when you're like, when I was talking about switching breasts, when your baby drinks the breast and you want to switch them, and your toddler comes over and really can kind of get all the milk out. Not that your breast is ever empty, but they can kind of give that boost to your milk supply because the more they drink, the more you make.
Right. Yep.
So that works out really well. And they can get older, and you can tandem nurse for as long as you want. You can stop if you want. These are all things that are just a personal choice, whether it's going well for you or not. I always just chest feeding was always the best option for me. For choosing to wean and go through all of that was just people again with their magical weaning answer. It just happens overnight and it's super easy. It just was always the easiest thing for me. all the way up until the end. It's just the answer for everything. If they're hurt, if they're sad, if they're whatever, it was just always the best option for me, especially now that I had two to deal with.
Absolutely.
So I think that's all I've got. If you have questions, let me know. I went through it. So just send an email. We can answer.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Abby.
Sure. I love sharing that story. As you could you've probably heard it a million times.
Yeah, it's very helpful. I think it's very helpful. And we'll link back to a lot of these cool things Abby was talking about. So check out the show notes.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.